But okay, so we kick off with Furiosa. So this is Furiosa, to give it its full title, Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. And Sean, if you're okay, I'll just do a little bit of like background
Of
on
course,
this.
yeah, go, yeah.
Yeah,
You can tell the story.
yeah, because I know that it's so this is pretty much it's a prequel to the last Mad Max movie, which is Mad Max Fury Road, in which we met a character called Furiosa or Imperator Furiosa to give her a full title, who was played by Charlize Theron. And this film is a prequel that tells you everything about Furiosa that leads her up to the point that you meet her in Mad Max Fury Road. So, and I think that's really much about what you need
Pretty
to
much.
know
Yeah, yeah, pretty
storyline
much.
wise, and then it's now I think we have previous with Mad Max Fury Road on this podcast because I remember Sean, I went to see Mad Max Fury Road with you in the cinema. It's one of the few times I think we've gone to the cinema together,
Yeah,
and I remember we came out with totally different experiences. We
yeah.
came out with totally different experiences because sure you came out, you were like, oh, that's amazing, and you were because you're a Mad Max fan anyway. I feel like
Yeah.
I joked on a WhatsApp group saying that I feel like you might actually be George Miller, the director of this
Yeah,
film,
yeah.
because you love it that much. You're in there with everything.
I've seen it a few times as well. I've watched it a few times when I like
Yeah,
sort of on.
when it shows up on TV and
Sorry,
all that.
yeah,
Yeah, and the my and I feel like if you're going to talk about this film because it leads into Fury Road. You can't talk about
yeah.
this film without talking about Fury Road. I don't
Fury
think.
Road, yeah.
And my problem with Fury Road is that I thought this was the beginning of me, my old man thing of if there is no story, I'm not interested. And
Mm.
I still maintain that I don't think Fury Road has that much of a story. It is. I feel like Fury Road is like one long action scene. I didn't quite like the action. I thought it was repetitive. And people were like, oh, but the stunts and everything. And yes, the stunts are amazing. But great stunts do not a movie make. And I would maintain that until this day. That's my thing. I know, Sean, you're like it's a 5 star
Oh
movie
yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah. It's a top movie for me.
Yeah.
Uh,
And yeah,
top, super top movie. I mean, like I say, if that was on an aeroplane, I would watch that.
yeah, yeah. And that's and I know I'm in the minority when it comes to Fury Road because my brother loves it. He bought it on Blu-ray and everything like that, which is any chance he gets. And I think my wife and I are the only ones who are like, this is stupid. They drive in a straight line, get to a point and go, okay, hang on, we'll drive back. That is Fury Road. And I know that is reductive, but yeah. And so with this, when they said they were making Furiosa and they said we was gonna go in the cinemas and all that, and I was like, okay, fine, okay, let's go and let's see this again. I had a much better time with this than I did with Fury Road because this has a story. This goes from A to B to C, and I feel like this film justifies the existence of Fury Road. If you get,
To be honest with you, the one thing I liked about it was almost seamlessly would go into the other. Well,
yeah,
it
yeah,
just worked so well because it was just like I would say the only other prequel that has probably matched that would be Rogue One, the Star
yeah,
Wars
yeah,
one,
yeah,
Rogue One. But
yeah,
this was just it was like seamless. You could have played the two movies together,
yeah.
and it would just be one movie.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that highlights what my problem with Fury Road
Mm,
always was, and because Fury Road is pretty much the last act of this film. So if
yeah.
you're telling if you're telling somebody a story, Fury Road will be the last act of this film, and I'm thinking, why did you give me the last act without the rest of the story? So okay, but yeah, but I know that for some people they love that. For me, it just really annoys me, and I don't know exactly why. It just really annoys me of the fact that they did
It's,
that. But
and
I
that's the
said,
joy. That's the joy of cinema. Some people hate some films.
yeah,
Some people love other films.
yeah,
It is. That's what's great about it.
yeah. But going on to this film, as I said, this film I think really justifies Fury Road, and you're right. You could have like a double bill. Watch this film, watch Fury Road, and I feel like after this film, watching this film now. I would go back to Fury Road and have a much better time. I feel like I would have a much better time with Fury Road after watching this film. But the storyline kicks off. You meet Furiosa when she's young. You meet her when she's young and she's in this place. That's okay. I mean, the film starts off and it kind of sort of it kind of almost sort of says that the Mad Max world is our world, but with a whole bunch of different wars that have gone in and has desolated the whole place. And so it talks. There's this bigger thing that this film has, almost this sort of philosophical thing about the nature of humans and conflict and war and why we destroy each other and everything like that. But then it comes up with Furiosa. Then it goes, okay, let's forget about that and let's get some action in. So if you meet Furiosa when she's a kid, she's in this area. There's some people who come to this area, but they're in this place called the Green Place that they're trying to protect to make sure that nobody else finds out about it. Because if they find out about it, then everything's gonna go. So the first time you meet her, she's trying to stop some marauders. She gets captured, and I actually quite like the opening sequence of this film because for me, my favorite character in this film is her mother. I feel like
she's tough. Yeah,
her mother
we
is
like tough
badass.
Was,
Her
yeah.
mother is
Yeah,
absolutely
agreed.
badass. You do not mess with that woman, and I loved that character and everything. So because obviously you know how Furiosa ends up in Mad Max Fury Road, there's a couple of things that you're going to be expecting for. Like in Mad Max Fury Road, Charlize Theron famously only had one hand in that film, and in this one, when it starts, she has two hands. When you meet her, she's in the Immortan Joe's Citadel. So you know there's a whole bunch of different things that are going to happen. Like how does she get from there to the Citadel? They go through that. They show you all the different people that she meets. Furiosa changes from Aliyah Brown to Anya Taylor-Joy.
Seamlessly again.
It is
I mean,
seamless.
that was how they did that. I don't know because I don't think it was CGI thing, but it just
It,
seemed
it
to work. 1 minute with
sure,
the
Sean, it was CGI.
oh, what was it?
It
Okay.
was CGI. So essentially, what if you look at pictures of Aliyah Brown in real life, she doesn't look like she does in Furiosa because what they did and what George Miller did is that they used AI to map bits of Anya Taylor-Joy's face onto
Oh,
Aliyah
okay.
Brown so that as she's growing older, she says like at the beginning maybe there's about 25% of her
It
face
was
in there.
still clever, whatever it was. It was
No,
still it was
it
still
was
really, really,
it
really
was really
clever.
clever. It was really clever because there was a bit where I was looking at her as she's growing older, and you can see. I'm like, hang on, that. And there's a bit where it changes, and you're like, okay, this is who's going to be with for the rest of the film.
And she pulls
And I
the
think,
mask down.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think I had a lot. But I remember in Fury Road, I complained because I felt like this was like a world that somebody had in their head, and there was a reason for everything that was in the world, but they were not telling you what the reason was. And I feel in this film, there's a little bit more of that, and explaining what goes on, and explaining what Gastown is, explaining the Bullet Farm, and who Immortan Joe, and there were all these bits that I just really liked. I liked it as a piece of world building. I liked it as a bit, and obviously one of the big things, the main thing about Fury Road is action. This doesn't have as much action as Fury Road, but I think when the action kicks in, like there's a bit where they have Tom Brooks shows up as some guy called Primorton Jack or something. I mean, all the names are weird. There's Rictus Scrotus, like all these guys that they have
Victoria
weird.
Jack, yeah.
Yeah, Praetorian. That's it.
Yeah.
Praetorian Jack. Yeah. And so Tom Brooks shows up at him, and the car that you have, or the main car that you have in Fury Road, is called the War Rig. There's a whole segment where they're attacking the War Rig, and I'd heard a lot about this sequence, and I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. But the invention in that sequence, the invention that shows up, like the guys who are coming on they're behind the motorbike, and then like a parachute opens, and then they go. I was like, this is awesome. This is like. I thought the action was inventive. I thought it was great. I thought it made sense, and I thought like as the sort of like the sort of road war thing. I just thought it was really really good. I actually really quite liked this film. I thought it worked quite well. I thought the performances are good. It's possibly some of the best I've seen of Chris Hemsworth because he isn't just relying on being Chris Hemsworth. Although I mean the weird nose they give him helps. but I really like this film. Sean, I'll stop talking and let you talk.
You pretty much said it all, Post. I don't think I can say much else except to say that, yeah, no, it was just brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic. It worked seamlessly. It made sense. Everything made sense. There wasn't really anything that I could pick up that was daft. Really, I liked the meeting between Immortan Joe and Demetus. What he was called,
Dementus, yeah.
Demetus, yeah, Demeter. So yeah, and what I really liked as well was the betrayal bit as well, because like they meet and
Oh
how
yeah. Oh no spoilers, no
how
spoilers.
but how he takes how he says, yeah, well, we can have this, but I want this and I want this and I want her,
Yeah, yeah,
and to me I thought, yeah, that works. It just worked really really well. I thoroughly came out. Well, I enjoyed this film all
yeah.
the way through, and I'm definitely should see it again.
Yeah, and because there's things like
It's,
one of
and
the
I agree with you with the um, Fury Road thing because it goes in seamlessly and it is world building, you know, and you think there might be some claim, oh, there's not enough action, there's not enough, but there was enough action and it was good action as well. It was really, really
yes,
good,
yes.
especially the, you know, yeah, well, I don't want to
I
give any spoilers,
yeah,
but
I actually prefer the action in this to the action in Fury Road.
yeah,
Quite
they're
fun.
both good movies, so
Yeah.
I won't be any different. But yeah, no, this was I was so pleased that I saw this movie. It's just great. Sharon, do you like Fury Road?
I've seen it once when it first came out,
Yeah.
and I was impressed by the visuals, but it didn't leave a lasting impression on me. And I haven't seen it again, and I haven't really felt the need to revisit it. For me, it wasn't a really Mad Max film, which is what it was a Furiosa film, so I can see
It
how
was a Furiosa
this
film,
would
yeah.
tie into this because
Mm.
Mad Max was almost like a secondary character in it, and I
Yeah.
went to see it because I thought it was going to be a Mad Max film.
Well, that's one of my complaints with Mad Max is that the only time in Fury Road in which he does anything mad is off screen. You don't actually see him do the mad thing. He runs up into the. But anyway, I will stop doing. I will stop complaining about that film. I'll talk about the film that we have on the table. So I mean, I thought it was really well done. I think, as I said, I thought the performances are great. I think that there's bits like where essentially George Miller has made this film assuming that you have seen Fury Road because
Yeah.
there's bits where he keeps playing. Like I mentioned the fact that if you look at the poster for Fury Road, you see Charlize Theron with one mechanical arm. And there's bits where he keeps doing all these things that kind of like, no, not yet, not yet, no, she's still got two arms. No, still got two arms. And so much so that the scene where they actually, okay, Sean, if you want to talk about stupid things, the one bit where I looked at it, I thought, okay, now that is stupid. That doesn't make any sense.
What the like the tortury bit with the capturing bit that you're talking about?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
The scene where she finally actually loses her arm.
right.
That bit I thought was no, that's just stupid. That's just
Well, in what
stupid.
way? In what way? In what way?
Okay, all right, okay. So essentially, let me go back to some of your complaints. Like you complain about in Batman versus Superman that when Batman comes up through the floor, all these highly trained commandos
Yeah, yeah,
are
yeah.
facing away from all the places that they would be
Yeah,
facing
yeah,
because
yeah.
those are
Yeah.
the obvious entry points, that kind of thing. And this, I'm thinking that you have that scene. I'm going to try and say this without giving any spoilers. That in
Mm.
that scene, you have a whole bunch of people who've captured some people, and they are doing stuff, and they have the person that they've captured in a certain place,
Hmm.
and then the person who they captured escapes, and I'm thinking, how?
Because they were distracted by what
Right.
they were doing
Yeah,
to
yeah, but
companions.
if they're and I guess that if they're distracted,
And it
all the people who are
explains.
all the people who are doing the essentially all the people who are doing the capturing are idiots. That's
Well,
that's
they were,
it.
weren't they? Let's be honest.
I know.
They were pretty much.
They were idiots. Even the masterman's an idiot, and that bit I was just kind of like but we can have a bit.
I'll forgive you for that.
Yeah, yeah. We can have a bit more of a spoilery discussion about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But there were just a whole bunch of things. I was like, how? But apart from that, I would give this a 4 out of 5,
Yeah,
which for me is a massive, massive bump up
that
from
is
Fury Road.
from Fury Road. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, well, I mean, as you can probably tell from my enthusiasm for this film, this is this for me. Yeah, I, I, I thought it was better than Fury Road, so I'm going to give this one a 5.
Sean, I would not argue with you. I thought it was better than Fury
There you go.
Road. I thought, and the funny thing about the
To
funny,
me, what I think what I liked about it so much is it just was so seamlessly. I mean, I've seen prequels before, but this just, like I say, you could go from this movie straight. You wouldn't even need any other titles or anything. You could go from this movie straight to.
to Fury Road, yeah.
In fact, I think isn't there a scene in it which is the first scene from Fury Road?
Well, when this film finishes, the you know how sometimes when they make a film about a real life figure and then
Yeah,
they show you pictures of them in real life
yeah,
after the
yeah.
film ends,
I quite
this
like that.
film during the credits of this film, they show you scenes from Fury Road because essentially saying what you said, that this flows directly into Fury Road. And the funny thing is that, well, I heard an interview with George Miller on the Empire Movie Podcast where George Miller said that they actually wrote this film before Fury Road. They wrote the script for this film because they were like, and essentially everything I said about Fury Road, he sort of like corroborated, because I was like, it's like somebody has a world that they figured out in their head, but they're not telling you anything. He says that because they had all these characters in Fury Road, they needed to know where they all came from. And so they wrote this whole other screenplay to explain where Furiosa came from, what Bullet Town is, what Gastown is.
I think, I mean, I don't know, because I've heard John was telling me that it hasn't done particularly well, but they were talking about making a third one, weren't they, called The Wasteland, which was going to be a Mad Max one, which was going to be all about Mad Max. That was my perception. It was going to be a trilogy.
Yeah. Well,
so, you know, The Wasteland, which was going to be more of a Max one. So you had Furiosa, Fury Road, and then you had The Wasteland, which would have been Mad Max. So
yeah, and after this film, I would have watched that one. But the truth is that they still might, because I mean, Mad Max was what, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 10 years. I think probably they were looking, because he was telling me, he said, "Oh, it hasn't done very well at the cinema. It hasn't done very well at the cinema."
Yeah.
So.
It hasn't, and but that is essentially there's a lot of wider existential questions being asked about cinema right now, because there's been a lot of films that they've released which I thought would have been big films that weren't. So Furiosa was one of them, and The Fall Guy was another one of them, which haven't done well, and people have not gone to cinemas to watch these films. But I reckon that what's going to happen is same thing that happened with Mad Max Fury Road, because that wasn't that well attended in cinemas.
No.
It was when it got into home viewing that people started watching and going, oh my god. And I think the same thing's going to happen with this film. So they might make The Wasteland in another 10 years.
Looking at the long term, long term thing. I'll tell you a trilogy.
They might do that, although the problem is that George Miller might not be with us anymore. So
that's true. On about that, Immortan Joe was a different actor, wasn't it?
It was, because
but you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know unless you put them right beside each other. Unless you put them right beside each other, the eyes are different. But you wouldn't know, because the guy who played the original Immortan Joe, Hugh Friendly something, he died. So they had somebody else play Immortan Joe in this one. So 5 stars for me, or in general 4.5. But we've spoken about this too long. Shauna's just been looking at us all weird and stuff. There's a lot more that we could get into, because there's a lot more that I do want to get into.
You're right.
But we need to. I need to let that thought go away, and